was saying we should look before I run another campaign, right?
Hmm.
Um, do I pull a list of just like the best zip codes or not even bother? I've been hitting that.
Yeah. Well, you went look through every zip code and found out where the rehabs were going on, right?
Correct.
Got it. So
Um,
yes, that data is more than what most people have. If you know the zip codes that all the rehabs are happening in, then it makes no sense to send to the zip codes that no rehabs are happening in.
oh
That
yeah,
makes, you know what I mean? Because you'll get data from there, but you won't actually ever get deals from there. So that is a
yeah.
yes, I would
I
say
figured
that exists.
the ones that didn't even have like a sale in the last 10, like there's ones, like in the last year that had one or
Hmm.
two or five. Do
Yeah.
not even bother. Or once we had like 10 in the last 5 years, I'm not bothering with them. Even if I
Hmm.
just pull like the big ones where there's like 40 a year,
Hmm.
there's one, two, three, four, five that's got more than 20.
Okay.
Those are like hot ones.
Well, what I would do from there is take those first and pull your list and see how your list works. Just in, is it big enough for
Yeah.
those areas? That makes
Well,
sense.
that's really big.
Is it too big?
Yeah, I think. When I looked
Now
yesterday,
let's think about, instead of just size, let's also look at like how far some are away, because obviously maybe you want to cut it down to top three, but also top three with also being the closest to you.
yeah.
What's up,
And those are
Darshan?
these are all within an hour, right?
Hmm.
This is all still closed. I didn't even spread it any further than I needed to.
Okay.
So it's close enough that it still works. Obviously it's a whole new. All of these are totally new markets to me, so I just need to spend more time looking. When I
Hmm.
in my area I can be like, oh yeah, that house is this much. Now I just need to evaluate them more.
Hmm. I mean,
But
in the top five, did your area that you had been marketing to, did it come up in the top five?
mine's in like the top one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. I'm number seven. Number
Okay.
seven and number nine on the list
Okay.
for the last year
Yeah.
is one of
Uh,
my is my zip codes that I.
maybe take top three and just see where you land, how big the list is, because that's a big improvement. Because when you say you're 7 and 9, though, how many are you? Like 5 or 10 a year? Is that it?
No, so this is. I mean, so looking at the last 10, the last 400 days, right?
Hmm.
Mine are number six. Well, my first zip code is has 16 flips, right?
Okay.
The top one has 38 and
Well, it's
40.
not bad though.
It's 42 and 38. I
But now,
have
were most of your flips though that were like the rental flips though? They weren't like the nice flips that were actually making money, like 250, 200K ARVs and stuff.
well on mine that I
Yeah,
did
your
myself.
zip codes, because I remember
Oh
a lot of stuff you were telling me seemed like it was too cheap. But
yeah,
it wasn't really a lot of room to make money. When you do like ARVs of like 120, it's not a lot of room to make money.
yeah. Well, that's what I did now. So when I pulled the data for this,
Mhm.
right, I basically cut it at 130. So it was 130 and up for ARV. So
Oh,
I didn't even look at
nice.
anything under that. Just to, going back to our original thing, what's our, what's the avatar of the house we want, right?
Yeah.
And I just said, okay, well, I know if it's under $120,000, it's not. There's no room in there to bother unless you get it at a steal, right?
Hmm.
So screw them. We'll do anything over 120. I said, okay, well, I pulled the list from 120 to 400,000.
Okay.
All of the flips that happened in that price range and above 1,000 square foot. And
Hmm.
now out of that data, I know what's the average square footage, what's the average bedroom, and all of that. So I can now, I was able to identify the zip codes. From identifying the zip codes, I can now go look at each zip code and say, okay, well, for this zip code, the sweet spot of house is this bedroom, this size. and zip this, so I can go per zip code per house and really custom the list special for that zip code.
Yeah.
Now, on average, it's three to, the story, 3 to 1,100 to 2,300, size house.
Okay.
And if it's over, even if it's a 3-bedroom one, if it's over 1,100, 1,200, you can squeeze another one in, a bathroom in there. Mostly.
Let me catch Darshan up to date real quick. So Darshan, what we and Gerhard are doing, he's actually trying to like figure his neighborhood out, his area, like where the best deals are. So he's been just going through every zip code and figuring out where all the flips are happening, because he sent some mailers out. He ended up getting a deal, but like it really wasn't the best return, and he thinks he might be sending to like not the best neighborhood. And they kind of found that out when he started to do a lot of research. I had him go in the MLS, pull like a whole year for like everywhere, and then go through every listing and look for the flips, and then create a spreadsheet. And then he figured out that there's certain zip codes where a lot of the flips are going on. And that's what I wanted him to identify. So he knew where everyone else was doing the deals. A lot of times people are like, oh, okay, let's go where no one else is. I want to fish in the pond no one's in. Like when it comes to house flipping, that's probably not the truest statement. You want to do different things in the pond everyone's fishing in, right? So I guess the better analogy would be you want to go fishing in the pond everyone's fishing in, you want to use different bait, right? You don't, because if you go in a pond where there's no one's else there, there's a reason there's no fish. Does that make sense? You're going to be fishing in there and there ain't going to be nothing to jump on the line. There's a reason. Oh, man, they tried already, and that's why they're not there anymore. So like, we want to go in the pond everyone else where the fish are and everyone else is fishing. We just want to do something different. He's trying to figure out where the heck is everyone fishing right now, because his market's got a little bit of fish, but not a lot of fish.
Right.
So you find he's fighting too hard for him.
I was focusing on one like a county where I'm at, like where my house is, and I found like the two next to me were actually much better areas than mine, and then even more when I dug in deeper is, I saw that a lot of them are sheriff sale. Like before somebody says, are the sheriff sales? I go like, no. And we find out that, I see now that it's like 50% sheriff sale.
Yeah, it's a big deal. That's something to know.
Mm-hmm. So it's a big number that sheriff sale. And
well, here's a quick thing that you could figure out, and I think would be an easy thing for you, Gerhard, is I think you could easily hire a VA to do a reverse lookup on everyone who's bought a sheriff sale and get their information and jump on the phone call and like call them, make friends with them, and tell them to get them on your list, right? Say, hey, can I get on your list? Are you wholesaling any of these? Because I bet you a decent amount of these guys are wholesaling these properties. So all you really want to do is get in contact with them. Because I can tell you, like the courthouse steps where we are locally in Maryland, like if there's 10 dudes bidding, like 6 of them are wholesalers. It's just simple these days. It's so easy to be a wholesaler. Even the people who used to flip are wholesaling more now at the courthouse steps. That way they can buy more, turn more over. It's just, just buying, reselling. It almost sets up perfectly for it. So you might want to ask, are you wholesaling, right? Hey, do you consider selling any of these? And then if not, you might find someone who's extra talkative and tells you a lot about what they're doing, how they're doing it. Who knows? Wants to have lunch with you. These are good people to connect with.
Yeah.
Because like having these also good people to sell deals, if you got a wholesale deal, by the way, it becomes a strong part of your buyers list also, the reverse thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that was also a good thing to see because, we know, a bunch of people in your area, and I know, or I thought I knew everybody that does the most deals. And then I'm looking at these, and there are these guys that are doing, 4 times the number that anybody thought anybody did.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and like the one guy, you can see it's like this variations of the same LLC, but there's like 3 operators here that are doing like 70, 80 a year.
Yeah, likely they're wholesaling some of those would be my guess.
No, remember, we are coming from the data comes from the sales.
But how do you know they're only buying 70 at the courthouse steps? You don't.
Oh no, they might be selling a hell of a lot more. Yes.
Yeah, they could
we
be
only see what ended up making it on the market under their name.
Yep. So people usually, when they have an abundant business, they don't usually rehab everything they buy. They
Yeah.
usually have some kind of mechanism to wholesale. I mean, I bought a couple wholesale deals recently from somebody like CR Homes. They were doing like 150, 200 deals a year. And I think they rehab like 40 or 50 of them. They're just, they can't do everything they buy. So they always have to have a outlet to get rid of things just from
Yeah.
a timing standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll do that. I mean, actually, so I've got the list of all these guys. I looked a few of them up. It's like, who the hell is this? But
Mhm.
to try and connect with them and see, like, hey, you're buying lots of deals. Let me see you sell any. Because like I said, as I didn't people I thought were big boys, they didn't even make the list. you know.
Yeah, most of the biggest people aren't really known. I mean, the only reason people would have known who I was before I was a coach was because we had radio ads sometimes. Without that, I don't think any man, we're just like, I didn't make friends with nobody. I was like in my own world, just
Yeah.
flipping, going crazy. They're like, you know this flipper? I'm like, no, I don't know any flipper. I
Yeah.
know 5 guys I sell all my wholesale deals to, and they just buy them instantly because I just like, dude, here's the numbers. And they're like, cool. And they know, like, they trust me. I send them good numbers, and I'm doing it out of convenience. I was actually not getting as much money as I should get. So where I was messing up is that I was selling the deals to, like, say, just quickly selling them to you for 5K profit or 10K profit. And I never really let the market tell me if someone would be willing to pay 10, 20, 30. So but that was because I was busy doing 150 flips a year. So I didn't have time to squeeze every dollar out, right? I had to take time with it. So yeah, man, keep doing that research. What I would recommend now, before you make a decision, Gerhard, is I would actually recommend working on and deciding what list do you think is going to be best in that area. When you pick these really hot areas, I can tell you the best list you can do is always going to be probate, as far as like getting deals closed that make money. That's one. Number 2 usually is going to be, it's kind of a toss up between like tax sale, absentee owner, and things in foreclosure. So I kind of think maybe even like tax sale, absentee owner, maybe like code violation too, if that's a thing, right? If you can even get that list, you can in Baltimore.
Yeah.
So anything where
We
there's
don't get
distressed.
we don't get code. Um, or code is very hard. That's per like township, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to track down that township and do it. I'll try and work on these to do that. Um, the probate is hard because there's no probate thing really. But
So if there is a way to get it, you got to go there and get it is what you have to do.
no, I need to figure out if how to get it at the courthouse because there is no.
Great. So there's a runner. You need to find a runner then. So go on those sites I was telling you about, right? All those different clubs, like the RIA groups and all that. If there's a discussion board, and post and say, hey, man, who sells probate? Because whoever's selling probate likely is connected into one of these groups. There's always a runner that'll go do this. Like, if not, it's a business opportunity. But in every county where there's real estate investing, there's someone who'll go to courthouse steps and get those probates for you fresh every month and sell them to you.
Yeah.
And it's usually well worth it because it's the best data you're ever going to get because they go get it fresh. They also check to make sure there's a house involved. Usually they'll sell them to you for anywhere from like $1.50 to $3 each, but you're not talking about a lot every month. So, if they sell you 50 or 100 of them a month, which would be a lot, you're a couple $100 a month for a really awesome list that you could then start pounding out. And the probates are the best, by the way. So
Mhm.
think about that. Hey, Darshan, do you have any suggestions or anything I missed on like list to send to that you've used or you've heard other people use that work well?
Everybody that I've been speaking with has been doing absentee owners. It seems like everybody's just like banging out absentee owners, honestly, and
Yeah.
like high equity elderly.
Yeah. I mean, high equity elderly. So they're just going like age.
Yeah,
Now, are they doing that absentee though, high equity elderly, or just high equity, like they're old as shit, they own the home, they've lived there a long time?
yeah. I've been told that they've been doing like high equity people that lived in a certain place for a long amount of
Yeah.
time.
Owner occupied. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's, where they're getting the list for that?
I know Stephen Neville is a person that's been supplying that list to a few people
Oh,
locally.
Like, that guy's like a criminal, dude. I don't know. I feel like I've worked with him a couple times, and he's not like ethical and like he's kind of full of shit. So I wonder if like his list is any good.
You know,
I'm
so
working.
It's hard to figure that out too, whether, you know what I'm saying? It's hard to
Yeah,
figure out whether it's good until you've mailed it for like a year. So that's like the perfect scam business to get in, just selling people shitty list because no one will ever figure it out. You'll be doubting yourself. You just don't know. And I mean, I know what he's about because a couple people have complained to me that he's kind of ripped them off. And actually I kind of got that vibe from him. So
gotcha.
I'm like, I don't know, man. I wish there was a better name than that came up because I'm like, that's the only dude, man. I don't totally, and I trust most people because
I
I'm just like, I don't know.
I do have another person that I can put in the group that I've gotten lists from that have been really good.
Okay.
It's called Flip This Real Estate List.
Oh, cool.
He's an investor out of New York. That pulls lists. That his lists are normally pretty good.
Nice.
I can put his information in the group.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Because right now we're working with list source, but there are some limitations of what they can and cannot do. Whenever your list gets more like detailed, you can go to like Dunhill is one place for anyone like Gerhard. Like Dunhill is really good for like really complex lists. Charles is telling me he's doing like what he's been doing with his students is doing people with, like multiple lines of debt, owned the property for a long time, got equity. He has like a long, crazy list. The more stuff in your list, the more expensive the list gets. But I don't know. It's been working.
I was looking at Dunhill. I didn't look at it. You know, I found it because he was talking about it the other day.
Yeah.
And they charge. It's like $100 for 100 names or something like that, or 100 per 1,000.
Yeah, that's not bad. I mean, but it will go up if you add a lot of stuff to it. But either way, like your list, look, I mean, a lot of times I get like picky myself on lists and I get cheap about it. And I realize that's probably not a smart thing because you're going to send this list for like a couple months. You're going to be sending it a lot. You're spending $1 almost a letter, or something like 60 cents to $1 a letter. And, you got to have a good list or you're just sending it off to the air. Right. It's not worth it. So, I would recommend. So I've talked about in the training, the list that I've always liked is high equity. They've owned the property like 15 years. Out of state's good. Anywhere from like 50 to 60% plus in equity, making sure because equity is quite off. I also only do things that are at least older than 1975 because I don't find myself doing much business with newer properties when it's not a bank owned. It tends to be like, if they got a newer property, they tend to list it because it's in good enough shape. Might be a little different for Ray because Ray's actually a lot of opportunity with some newer homes. But I would say that, one second. What I would say though is that the older is my avatar where I am locally. And then also it'd be older, but then square footage, I tend to stay right around like 800 to 2,000 square feet. I don't really want things bigger than 2,000. It just doesn't represent enough of the properties I've ever gotten before. I'm not saying you won't do a 2,500 every once in a while, but like they're so rare compared to like you think about every house we do, it's always what, like 1,000 to 1,600 square feet usually, maybe 1,800. So really, if you go like 900 to 1,800, that's probably the perfect avatar because you're cutting out like this big pile of like 3,000, 2,500. They don't usually lead to very much. Right. And I think a lot of that has to do with those bigger square footage houses tend to be really nice homes. They tend to be homes that are a little more desirable. So they don't fall into the distress sale too much. So you're not going to get as many opportunities with them. So personally, I like to focus on that square footage, how old it is. I want at least 15 years of ownership because I know like on ListSource, it tries to automatically take you to 10 years. But I want you to think about what 10 years was. Someone could have bought in 2009 or 2008. That's right at the crash. So they could have like crazy high equity. If you go 15 years and it gets us back to like 2003, 2004, that's before things shot up in value. That's really what we always have to get to is before things shot up in value. And also, I think personally about 15 years is the minimum time of ownership that I've seen. Matter of fact, I'd have to tell you that if I could go back and I'm not going to do the research. I'm not going to do it. I'll just tell you, I know the research. If I go back like over the last 100 deals I've done, I would say that like a big portion, like probably 90+% of those deals were owned 20+ years, maybe 25+ years even. It's just like very few houses owned like 15 or under, very few. That I've made any real money on. I might have had a deal where I wholesaled it, made a couple grand, or you end up listing it or something. But man, the ones that like all the money's being made on is when they're paid off, they owe nothing. And also like it's either like super low mortgage or no mortgage, and they've owned it a long time. So that's an actual thing, right? That's a thing to take note of.
What
So
did you say?
yeah,
You do like year build 1970 where?
and below. Sorry.
Oh, 70 and below. Okay.
Yeah, so 1975 and below, 1970, just something like that. You know, a house that's at least like 30, 40 years old. It's got to be old enough to be out of date.
Yeah, yeah. How do you get the list source to do from the 10-year to do more than 10 years? You gotta, because you cannot say the last
You don't. That's why.
sale date is this. You basically gotta pull the whole list from 10 and up, and then filter it yourself in Excel. Then I guess.
Well, no, you don't want to do that because you're paying for it. What I would suggest is call like Dunhill and tell them what you want. And like, you know, because you can get additional information at Dunhill you can't get at List Source. And I'm thinking it's probably worth paying for. It's going to cost you a couple more bucks to go to Dunhill, but you're going to save all that money in mailers you're not sending. Because the reality is if you can get really fine tuned into your customer avatar, like, you know how many letters I send out every month that go to the wrong people? It's just crazy amounts of letters. Right? Because I just quickly say absentee owners with equity and own the property a while. I mean, that is a very basic list and that makes sense. That's totally, if you do that list, you can make money. But what if we could take that list and fine tune it even more? You now have 5 really big areas, so you might be able to take in with that. That's what I did with one of my best mailers was I took every zip code I'd ever worked in, every county I'd ever worked in, and I pulled all of them and I fine tuned the crap out of that list. High equity, I made sure everything we just talked about, I made sure all those things were in there. And when I did that, it was like the best mailer I ever had because I wasn't getting very many calls. Now, anytime you do a square footage thing, just so you know, there's 2 things that come up. Anytime you do an equity, make sure you do unknown equity, you know, obviously, because you're going to have some stuff that just comes up as 0 because they don't have the data. Same thing with the square footage. If you come up with if you do 800 to 1,000 or 800 to say 1,800 square feet, you're also going to have to do 0 square feet because there'll be some that don't have the square footage on the tax record. And you don't want to lose those. Those probably are kind of old. Those are probably like the perfect houses, right? They just, you know, so you definitely want to get to pick up on those too. So that's a pretty big gap that you could miss if you do that. Same thing, like I said, equity, make sure you own unknown equity, unknown square footage too.
Yeah.
So, because you could lose a big piece by that. So anyhow, I think getting in there, talking to them, seeing what the list cost, making sure it's in an area where a lot of flips are going on. Because here's the greatest part. You get a deal in that area, guess what? You're going to, you know, even if you didn't want to do it, you could maybe sell it off to someone. You know, you pick it up for a good price. You can either do it yourself. You might be able to sell it real quick for 10 to 20K.
Yeah.
Take the money and get your Tesla and drive back home and be like, all right, man, you take care of the rehab. I'll take my rehab money up front. You do the rest.
Yeah. Yeah, if I throw like 65 and plus, see, what I wanted to tell you is so every, the people I know of that have good success with their marketing do high equity only and don't care about absentee because the absentee that I found and what everyone else is saying is, most of them, I mean, there's good stuff in there, but if you only do that list, that's what I've done my last thing. It's most of them are old landlords, and
True.
there's not that many. And
Are you taking out LLCs also in your list?
Yes.
Yeah, because the LLCs, it's interesting you're picking up though on old landlords because honestly, you shouldn't be picking up on old landlords who own properties in their own personal name. You could also do a search to make sure they don't own more than one property too.
Oh, people that only have one property.
Yeah, because my experience is if they own 3 to 4 properties, they're too savvy for us to do business with.
Yeah.
We're looking for the person that owns one random property. You know how awful it is to be a landlord when you own one property and you don't know what you're doing?
Mm-hmm, I know. Exactly.
You know, there's no upside, right? I mean, you're just like paying, you're fixing things. You're taking, I got to fix the toilet. What? You can't afford to get a management company. You're out there like dealing with shit. You're getting taken advantage of. They're not paying you. So most of the time people inherit like a property and they end up being a landlord. They inherit a problem. and then it's awesome for you to become and solve it. So yes, I think you know LLC, you can make sure they don't own multiple properties. You can also make sure they're at least 50 plus. I don't 65 is pretty old, but I would say like 50 plus is solid, right? I can't even remember the last person I've worked with that's under 50. Most people are going to be at least 45 plus. Just bought. The only time, matter of fact, the only time people are under 50 would be if they inherited a property. So literally that's like, then that makes total sense not even to mess with them. So if you're actually talking about an owner, if I'm now getting real about it, thinking about an owner, to be precise, I think it's easily 50 plus. So you don't need anyone under 50. So that's another thing. You can't get that from ListSource. You do have to go to like Dunhill to get that, or Melissa Data might, because ListSource don't have age. They can't do it.
Yeah, they do. Demographic. You can do the age for number 1 and number 2 and for the household.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I can search on number 1. I guess you always assume that the husband is the oldest. So if you do on individual 1 and do 50 to 95.
Dude, what do you think about calling someone and talking to them versus doing it online?
The what? The list?
Yeah.
Oh, to do cold calling.
No. When you're getting your list, like talking to a sales rep who will pull the list for you and make sure the shit's right. Because when you do it yourself, like on ListSource, I mean, you ever worry that like maybe you miss something or you don't do it right and you just bought a whole list and you're investing thousands and thousands of dollars and maybe you like miss one, didn't click one box?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Who would you call? Somebody at ListSource or somebody like a Dunhill and be like,
well, you call Dunhill, they're going to pull it for you. And my belief is they do this shit every day and they know what to look for. You can even ask them, like, what list are you seeing bought the most? Like, what is your kind of most successful list? Most of the time they'll tell you. You can ask them and they'll tell you what's been working well for their clients because they'll know what their clients are buying a lot of.
Yeah.
Right. And then you can kind of get that best list. I mean, it's worth a call. Melissa Data and then Dunhill too, because they'll talk to you. And I just personally, like when we were doing it ourselves with ListSource, I always like one time we had a bad month or two and I looked back at it, Delonte forgot to hit a button.
Yeah. I know the first one I pulled was a bad one and we screwed something up, me and Delonte.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that's a good idea.
I mean, he had it set though after a while. What me and him did to stop that from happening ever again is we actually preset it. So I don't know, maybe that was before your first one, but we might have done it because of that. Like, so what me and him did is we preset it so that every single time we would use the setting. So we knew it was perfect. Like I went through every little detail, made sure it was perfect, and then we preset it so all we had to it never had to worry about it being wrong again. I think they do kind of like that on the other side a little bit, so they don't have to worry about messing it up. But yeah, ask around a little bit, see what they're doing. And again, I wouldn't worry about it. I think if you were sending apps to owners, you make sure they don't own multiple properties. Make sure they're at least 50 plus. I mean, that was a long list of criteria.
Yeah.
You might find, and then tell them to pull those three hot areas, see where you end up, and high equity, all those things. Age, that's the avatar, man. You can really weed it down. They'll charge you a little more for the list, but then you might be able to do an extra city or two that you didn't think you could do because you're being more specific. I can almost do the whole state of Maryland. My list is so specific. I can go 4 counties deep to get like 3,500 names. Like I'm like looking for just about 3,500 names. And I'm in literally, I got all 4 counties. Like I'm, all the way from PG, a lot of counties covered, a lot of space. Like an hour radius. I mean, I'm going pretty deep to get that name, but I'd rather do that. I found that works better than just going crazy. I've done the old people living in the property, have a lot of equity list. That list is not the best list from a performance standpoint. The people that I think what you're assuming when you say people are doing well with that list, I think people are doing well when they do that list. But a lot of the reason people get to that list is because the other better lists have extinguished themselves. So like in 7-figure and 8-figure, everyone was doing that list after they did the other list first. We were really big into the math in 8-figure more than 7-figure. So we would really crack down on like every little detail. And when we looked at the details, every other list, that was the worst performing list. The only reason that people bring that into play is because they had to send 30, 40,000 letters, postcards, whatever a month, and mostly postcards with these guys, but they couldn't get 30,000 names of absentee owners. The absentee owner list would be like 2,500 people, right? And then they get a list of, then they'd be like, all right, cool, let's get the probate. It'd be like 300 people a month. And then they'd be like, let's get the tax sale. It'd be like 200. And let's get this. It'd be 5. Next thing you know, they're 5,800 names and they need 30,000. So what they would then do is say, all right, let's just call everyone who has equity and is old, right? Let's just send to everyone now, essentially. And that's how they would get a list. It was like 30,000 names that they could hit every month. They had to go to that list. But when we looked at the math on that list was not, like, rarely ever was that list the greatest. The only time I seen a little exception to that was like in Florida. But in Florida, a lot of people are absentee owner, but in Florida also people are very transient. So the only time that makes sense that when that list could be really good would be in a transient area where people don't stay long, or, you know, they're moving quite a bit. But when you get in like little areas where it's old people and they're occupying the property, they don't plan on moving anytime soon. I'm not saying you won't get a deal, because I have gotten deals from that list. I ran that list for about 1.5 years because of 8 figures specifically, because they were doing well with it. And I just didn't see it didn't perform as well. It performed, but it didn't perform as well as the other list. So if you're making a decision, why go to the worst performing list if you could do the best performing list? And you don't have the money to get to that list. You're not doing the volume to get to that list. So I mean, personally, you could try it. I just think it'd be a little bit of a crapshoot. And honestly, it's a volume game. If you're not hitting that list with big volume, it don't seem to work as well. You know, just sending out like 1,000 a month to that list you could have I sent out like 3,000 or 4,000 a month. And I mean, I literally only got like, I don't know. I think when we looked at it, I did it for like 8-9 months maybe. And I think we got 25 phone calls in like 8-9 months. It was pretty weak. I did luckily close like 1 or 2 deals and made it worthwhile, but it wasn't like a great list. It didn't excite me like compared to like the best list was the absentee owner with all that criteria I just told you. That was my personal. Now, I didn't do tax sale and I didn't do notice of default or anything like, you know, behind on payments or code violations. I just did absentee owners. That absentee owner filtered list, and I did occupied list, you know, with age and equity. So that was my only 2. And then probate, obviously. So the best list is always probate, just so you know. I take that off the table. Probate is the absolute best one. From a financial standpoint, I've never had a year where probate wasn't better than everything else. Just a slow list, though.
Yeah. I send out to the list of the inherited properties,
Mm-hmm.
and I got a few calls back, but you know, I didn't even filter it to be like, don't send to anybody that died like yesterday. You know, I just like threw them out there.
Died yesterday is who you want to hit, dude. That's like
Yeah.
Seriously, that's the people you want to hit.
Well, I don't even want to send them the thing like I just seen in the paper yesterday. You know?
No, not like that. It's never that.
Yeah,
They never have the data that fast anyhow.
Yeah.
By the time you get the data, it's been long enough. Most of the hottest deals, like I'll give you an idea, that one I'm working on in Pittsburgh, I just seen on Facebook, like she was going to the funeral. Me and her were working the deal out. She said yes to me, but now it's so new, they don't even have the legal right to sell it. But I got a yes, and I got them locked up at 40. But come to find out, I'm like, what name do you want to put in? They're like, we don't even know. I was like, what? And then they said, we're trying to figure out like how to get all that worked out. But literally I seen on Facebook, like I don't know, a couple days. This was a couple days after the funeral, by the way. Like that's how new it was.
Yeah.
Like people, when they're done with the funeral, the next thing they're doing, what do you think? They let the house sit. They're taking care of business. They stay in taking care of business mode. Selling the house and cleaning it out is the next piece of taking care of business. So I will tell you that a lot of people sell that stuff like literally within a week after the funeral. So by the time you get that list or any probate list, by the time the mail hits them 10 days, 8 days later, man, you will be right in front of them at the perfect time. If you wait a month to send that list, you missed out on a lot of good stuff. The most motivated people, like I would actually suggest that the highest motivation of people would sell in the first 30 days to 15 to 30 days for sure. And after that, you have people that want to sell, but obviously if they were motivated, they would already sold. Unless there's like a life event that makes them motivated at that point, which that does happen, by the way. But so everyone's been like, do you think we should wait? And I'm like, hell no. Because I can tell you there's been most time when people are like crazy about selling a house. Let's do a deal. Let's make this happen. It's like, yeah, you're like, the dude's like, it's still, his body's still warm from the bed, you know, where he was in the bed like 2 days ago. It's craziness. Or like, we're going to the funeral tomorrow, or we just got done the funeral last week. They're still crying, right? They're still emotional. it's when you want to be negotiating with someone, because they're just like, Gerhard, that's when they need you most, Gerhard, right? That is actually when they need your help most, because they really want you to help them out and get that thing off their plate, because nobody wants to deal with all that bullshit when there's someone's passed away. They just want, like, dude, I got this house. It's a turd. Like, take care of it for me. Like, clean the stuff out, whatever. It's a big help to them in a tough time. So that's when you bring the most value, is right when things are tough. 2-3 months later, maybe, I don't know, maybe they come up with a different solution because now they're in a different place. You never know. Maybe you're not part of that equation anymore. So I would do 2 things, man. And honestly, once you do it, you don't have to wait till next week for our call. Like, talk to me before then. As soon as you get together, just text me and we'll have a quick talk so you can get on it. I know you want to get going. I would try to figure out, put a couple posts out on a few things to figure out who's doing probate, because that's big. And then get on with Dunhill and Melissa data and just see what's up with it, as far as like trying to get like a really detailed list. And see what the costs are, do a little research, see how much it's going to cost to do that list from both people. What's your number you're going for as far as volume?
I don't know. You mean I was doing about 1,500 to 2,000. See, if I do postcards, obviously I can do a bigger volume, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I could have 1,500 letters, but I can do 3,000 postcards or 3,500 postcards.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking rather to do postcards and get a bigger number out there than.
What the guy you got the deal from? Did he come from a postcard or a letter?
It's from the campaign, so it's from multiple hits, though. Right.
Which one did he call from?
I would do
So you can't answer that, so that's bad news.
I'll tell you.
Got to answer that, dude.
But you mean like this guy would call back on all the numbers?
He called on all the numbers?
Yeah, he would like call it, and if he would like one day he would call me on letter number 1, and next day he'd call on letter number 2.
Dude, he sounds like he was stalking you, man. Like he liked your letter. What do you got on your letter, man? You got like a naked girl in there or something? Yeah. He was stalking you, man. He's like, I like this guy. He's a Gerhard guy. He sounds like a good dude. I'll save all his letters. It's like Criminal Minds, man. He makes me.
Well, a lot of actually, I found this now because I've hit this list that I'm working on now, right? I hit it, what's it now? November, December, January, February, March. So 4 times.
Okay.
People would call and say, hey, I've been saving your letters and I didn't have anything for sale, but now the renters are moving out. Now I want to talk to you. Right.
Perfect. Yeah. That's what happens with letters, by the way.
Yeah. This is where but it's because I would send out a letter and then a postcard and a different postcard and then a letter and, throughout the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So just to see what.
And you have a different number on each one?
I have a different number on each one. Yes.
Cool. So you can figure it out then.
Yeah, I can look.
Where did he call you from first, as always? And then listen, so if you're going to, then just keep mixing it up like that. But what I would suggest to do is after you get a little data, like you have enough data now, 4 or 5 months of data, you can go back and see like what's been performing. What is getting your phone to ring? If you go back and do a complete audit of all your leads, right? And the next question is, where they came from. They came from one list. You've been doing the same list. But all those leads, where are they coming from? You might find that it's disproportionately big one way or the other. I don't know. It could be postcards or letters. And whatever that is, then you would want to lean to it, especially if it's ended up being postcards. That if postcards and letters were the same, then you would obviously use postcards because they're half the cost. Now, if postcards are half as good, then it's a wash. Right now, if what I found in Maryland is that letters are a lot better. I'm getting almost a 2% open rate or call rate versus a quarter or 3% on a postcard. It's almost dismal. So it's literally like, it's 15% and it only costs half. So you can see where there's that arbitrage. It's really not good. There's a deficit there. So for you might find in PA that there's less letters going out, or less postcards, so maybe the postcards still work. Postcards used to be the shit for a long time, man. Postcards worked forever, but they got so worn out in Baltimore that because every coach teaching everyone to do postcards and everybody being naturally cheapskates, well, now the yellow letter is the next piece of that. right? It's the evolution of mail because postcards have gotten so saturated that now everyone now mail. The yellow letter helps you stand out. I don't know if you're at that place yet where you are, but going back through all your leads, you can figure it out for yourself, right? You can get a good feel for what the case is. It's a small sample size, but I have a feeling that you'll get an idea. I would actually do that before you decide. When it comes to marketing, never decide what you think or what you think someone else is doing, because honestly, most people don't know what's working. They're not paying attention to their data and fine detail. They're using their gut when it comes to their marketing numbers. A lot of times, even when they're tracking it, they're not always interpreting it correctly. Does that make sense? Like Rashad, he tracked the crap out of it. And I asked him, like, so what does that mean, man? What are you thinking? And like, he looked at it and it was like Chinese to him. He's like, oh yeah, I think this, this, and this. And I'm like, that makes no sense at all. So then I realized not everyone can look at a bunch of data and then like draw conclusions. I know you could, but that's what I'm saying. That's why I think it's even a better exercise for you, because I know you're a really smart guy and you have that good analytical mind where you could be like, all right, cool. You could like, that's making sense. You would see the pattern really quickly. And if you see anything in that pattern, I mean, I don't know how many leads you got, like 10, 20 leads. So it's not a lot to track, but figure out what's working. So when we do this next one, right, it's all about improvement. Every time you do a new mailer, you have to incrementally improve it so that 2 years from now, this thing is honed in and it's crushing. Like anytime, there's no secret weapon to, this one mailer, man, it was perfect. You send it out and all this magic came out of the sky. Mailers is like a long-term game. And honestly, like you could be in the exact same area, and maybe because my name's Mike and your name's Gerhard, like, I don't know, like one list might work for you, one letter might work for you, and something different works for me because we're different people. So our message is going to be different on the mailer, right? I mean, the only time that things are truly the same is if we sent the exact same mailer, same company name and all that, because maybe even our company name might get someone more, like catch someone's eye.
Yeah. Looking at the data, it's about this exactly the same. Doesn't matter if it's a postcard or a letter.
So it's half and half?
So January was a letter. I got 22. Oh, January was postcards. I got 22. February, 29.
Now, are you sending half the postcards in January, or?
No, I send
the same amount, the whole list. Okay, got it.
Send the whole
right,
list
cool.
every time, but a different medium, right? So it's a little skewed because you don't know if the guy's calling you because it's the second time you mailed him, right?
But if you mailed him 2 postcards, you don't know it's the same thing. It's the same outcome.
Correct.
But here's what you're coming. If it's the same, if you're getting the same response, it makes sense that you would lean towards the one that costs half the money.
Yep.
Right. I mean, so that is pretty conclusive evidence that a postcard's winning where you are. That's not the case where I'm at. I'm getting a 2% open rate on my yellow letter versus like a 3% or something. It's a huge difference. And I know why, though, because there's like 10 dudes coaching in Baltimore that are just like, send postcards. So like literally people get like 35 postcards, and I send a letter and it's like, oh, wow, this guy actually could afford a letter. All right. It's kind of cool. All right. Well, I would try maybe a run, maybe do like one yellow letter to start and then try a rest postcard or something.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing. The first time I mail a list, I send them a yellow letter.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just to be like, hey, if you, the best chance of you opening up, hopefully this is it. And then I'm going to send you postcards. Though it should actually be the other way around, right? So you think about it, the first time you mail it, send a postcard, which is cheap. So you can see the ones that didn't get delivered. The people that are totally pissed off will call you back right away. And now you can weed it out and then send them a letter the second time, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Okay, so I think we could probably. This one might be a little bit tough. This one is. I mean, I like where you're going with it. That's genius. I mean, that's really nitpicking.
Actually, also, what I have done in the past was the first mailer on a new list, I would send it with the postage we use. You get the return mail also, but I haven't on Yellow Letters HQ. They don't have the option where you can get that really cheap mail that if it's not that they throw it away, right? But the consensus has always been like use better postage so that you can get the return mail and actually know how effective that mailer was. Did it get delivered?
Really?
Well, so it's just the first time you hit a list, right? And you send out postcards, but you send out good postage so that
Okay.
they give you back, deceased or unable to deliver and all of that. So is this a good
Okay.
postal address for this person? Now you've weeded out also the totally pissed off people, right? Because they're going to call back right away, like the total whack jobs, right? And then you can spend the money and send them a yellow letter, because at least now the second row, you've at least eliminated it's a better chance.
Yeah. I'm trying to divide up the number, but it looks like to me, though, if you do 5 months, you do yellow letter 1 month, and then you do postcards 4 months after that, you're looking at about $1,000 a month to do a 1,500 letter list. And by the way, 1,500 letters is all you should need. Now, only thing you have to do different is take those 1,500 letters and send them out weekly. Break them down and divide them by 4 and send them out weekly.
Yeah, and that's
yeah. So I would actually, there's $1,000 a month is like not too bad, right? That instead of going like 1,500 or 2K a month, I would go $1,000 a month. Do that really strong list, right? Get a great list. Do it for 5 months and do one yellow letter, postcards the rest of the way. Like, maybe make the postcard pop. Try like 4 different postcards. That way, if you're hitting them with postcards, they're not getting the same one over and over. And then just be consistent with it. But if it's $1,000 a month, I feel like you could go more long term with it. And that way it's just consistently coming in. Calls are coming in. It's working.
Yep.
Because 1,500 letters a month is actually not bad, man. That's enough to get your phone ringing every week.
Well, yeah, that gives me, like I said, I get about 25 calls, 20 to 30 calls. I need to see what's going on here, because for March I have 70 calls.
70?
Yeah, so it went from like 30 and now it's 70.
Now, wow, something went wrong. Somebody might be spamming you. I had a month where we had like 90 calls, and it was like someone was spamming me.
Yeah, but these are all people that I spoke with, so
you didn't speak with 90 people, right? You would know if you spoke with 90 people, we'd be having a different conversation.
Yeah.
You'd be like, Mike, I need help, man. You'd be talking to me like, Mike, how do I hire a VA? Is what you'd be calling me and asking.
No. I speak to, and like I said, I speak to the first time I ever mailed, right? Yeah. I sent out the first campaign. I sent out 1,000 yellow letters, and I send it to like like this inner city stuff, man. And my phone was ringing constant for like a week, day and night.
Let me put it into perspective. I get about 30 to 40 leads a month, and I'm spending $8-9 grand a month. So, and I may get 50 leads on it. I never get 90 leads. I got 90 leads 1 month, but it was because somebody spammed me and they were like calling me. That's why it messed up my call rail, because they were calling and it was like McDonald's, and they were like weirdly leaving weird voicemails and stuff. It was like somebody told me to take them off the list and I didn't. And they said, if you don't take me off the list, I'm going to fire you up. And we literally went back and found the person who did it. And because Rashad's like, man, I know who did this. It was this dude. He went back and found it, and he let me. And the guy told me, he was like, if you don't take me off the list, you're going to regret it. I'm going to put you on a bunch of stuff, and I'm going to burn you up or something. And I was like, oh, God. And we should have taken him off the list. He did hit us hard, though, because like he had – but I would say if you got 90 leads, then – I mean, here's the thing. You got 90 leads. We have other conversations to have, right?
Yeah. Well, these were – so this is – according to this, it's potential. So it's calls that came in. Like, okay. So those are not leads. Leads, I have a very low number of real leads.
Well, then why are you getting so many bad calls is the question, because
these will take me off your list. Okay. A lot of take me off the list.
So that means that list is not interested then, to the point.
And those are so that was absentee only, right? Okay. High equity absentee only. Mm-hmm. And, it seems like they are better. People do better on the absentee owners, regardless of high equity owners, regardless of it.
So this wasn't a high equity list. This was just absentee.
High equity absentee.
Yeah, and if you remember, the reason I remember we did that was because you couldn't get a big enough list otherwise, right?
Correct. When we did absentee
Yeah.
Um,
It's full circle now. We're coming into why like it's a whole thing. It's like this symptom causing the problem, right? That's why you're getting a lot of phone calls, but they suck because like, we're sending to people who like you could be sending to people who haven't owned very long, right? And they just like, man, stop sending me a letter. I just bought this house like 2 years ago or something. So, or, I don't have any equity. That's the people they'll get mad at you, are the people who can't sell, right? Or wouldn't consider selling because maybe they have no equity, they're upside down. So yeah, I would actually just expand your territory out, right? What I would say do is obviously do your area, because you can get it in. We now know your area is only a couple hundred names from what we remember. If you follow my criteria, you're probably going to come up with 200 to 300 names in your area. And then you can actually do all the other areas until you can get up to 1,500 names. Do that and see what you come up with. Do the filters though. Make sure the filters are on because they're good filters.
Yeah.
You'll almost never do business with anyone who's outside that filter.
Mm-hmm.
So do that and then report back to me whenever you get some news on it. If it's before next Tuesday, just text me and we'll talk about it. And then I think you can put a good game plan together. Good diving, man. You've dove into this, man. You're good with the data. Like I feel like you've come up with some really good stuff. When you start getting results, guess what? It won't be like, oh, Gerhard just got accidentally figured it out. Like, no, dude, you're working hard for it, man. That's how it often is. This is the level of detail, like what Ray's doing right now with his contractors and everyone, like a lot of people in the group, man, they're working hard to get this level of detail that like, when you're good at this is the level of detail that you work on. You don't just, you don't blow over things. This was my big complaint when I was in the 7-figure and 8-figure was like everything was blown over, right? It was all this big theory, like, dude, we're going to do so much and all this great stuff, but no one was like, how are we going to do it, right? Like, what are some of the, no detail. Like it was small amount of detail, obviously. Like they would give you some stuff and it was good stuff they were giving, but then there wasn't always the detail on it, right? It was like, do this thing, but then people forget to be like, hey, by the way, like make sure of this or you won't get any calls. You missed that one little detail. Next thing you know, you wasted 20, 30K. So you're doing the work right now, man. You're putting in the work and it's a great job, man. I'm very impressed. And I'm seeing this shape up. I think if you hit this next plan, man, your phone should ring and then just start presenting to every single person. What I would recommend to you is if they have a house they want to sell and they have low mortgage on it, you should present to them. That would be the new thing I would actually add for you. Now, I'm just long as, the number isn't completely nuts. If you got to be at 50 and they're like, I want 150, then you might do a little bit of talk on the phone and saying, hey, how stuck are you on 150? How'd you come up with that number? If we come in, the market says that it's less than 150, are you open to that? I might have that conversation if they're way off, but if they're at 80, 90 or 100 even, and I can only pay 50, 60, I go in and do the work, man. All right. Go in and do the work. Someone else got their first deal today. Who was it? Not Michael Chow. Who was it? Michael Chow got a deal and presented, and it's turning into a nightmare. But he got a deal and he presented to this lady and she agreed. And then she called back and said she has dementia and she wants out of the contract. So, but good news is he actually did everything really well. So he has like a pretty good, he could probably get her back in the deal. I think she got a higher offer. Obviously it sounds like something I've seen quite a bit on my end. They get a higher offer and all of a sudden they're like, yeah, I want out because Gerhard came in offering 40K more or something. And they're like, down trying to get out of the deal. They can't do that though, unfortunately. Oh, Robert, that's who it was. Robert, Robert, he's in our group. He was just telling me earlier that he sent out about $1,800 worth of mailers, went on some appointments. He was getting really frustrated with it. He was like, dude, everybody wants too much, all this, and this. And I mean, my guess is I think he told me he got somewhere between 10 to 15 leads, actual leads, probably plenty of phone calls. And this one he presented and they wanted 100. He presented and 75 and they took it, but he did the presentation. He followed it and they took it. It's kind of scary. I don't even know what to do. If I keep teaching people to present like this in Maryland, I'm going to have to become a full-time coach because I'm not my shit ain't, or I'm going to have to get in a clown suit now. I'm going to have to be like, all right, here's the presentation 3.0. Come in with fire coming off your, a suit of fire to get their attention. We just have to keep stepping it up, man.
Yeah, you got to make it interesting. Well, that's definitely, I feel like the presentation does it. My buddy Chris, every deal he locks up 1 in 5 appointments he goes on.
Mhm.
You know, and he's pretty good at it. I mean, like he's. So at least I have more guys that can wholesale to me once they get enough. But they're hoarding all their. They've been able to stretch them out. So they got. I mean, they locked up 10 in the last month, but they're able to close in a later date, so that they're not getting jammed.
Stretch your settlements up. Yeah, makes sense.
So you don't
Now,
have to.
what are they doing? Are they doing direct mail, PPC? Did they tell you what they're doing?
No, direct only. Yep.
Okay, and they were doing. Oh, and that's the one that was saying that he's obviously if he did 10 a month though, he's sending a lot out every month.
They do. Well, they spent $6,000, so it's what, like 3,000, 4,000. No, 12,000 mailers.
12,000 mailers. Okay, or actually 12,000 postcards. Okay, got it. Well, 10 deals and 12,000 postcards is a shit ton, by the way.
Yeah.
That's suggesting that some of his deals might not be. He might be finding out later on that he might got a little wiggy.
Yeah.
Something's going on. Yeah, you have to see the numbers and pay attention because that's a really good. That rate is like high. Even 1 in 5. When someone tells me they're 1 in 5, it suggests they're probably closing a little too loosely.
Yeah.
That I know. That's something I know over like years of doing this because I've managed sales teams for years of like people buying and selling flips. And yeah, you can tell everything that's going on based on the math tells everything. So he might be getting a little like I've had this where I've done this before where I get out and I get in this roll in this groove and next thing you know I'm just signing everything up and I'm just getting then then 9 months later you figure out you got a little crazy when your flips come through and they ain't like as juicy as you thought.
Well, every time I give somebody an offer and they go okay, I go like, oh shit, okay, something's wrong here.
Yeah.
If they say okay too quickly, then I missed something.
Yeah, you're like, I got the ARV wrong.
It's like, shit, oh, man, we
sure.
missed something here. There's like an underground hole or something we don't know about.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? That's all with experience. You'll get better and better with that. So just keep doing your presentation. What's awesome about the presentation, it forces you to get the comps together, to get your head wrapped around all that data that you want to present to them. But also now you have it, so you can make a good decision when you're buying and you're feeling pretty good. It's hard to present the comps when you don't understand them. So it'll cause you to go understand them before you present them. Does that make sense? You won't just show random comps to someone. Like you might look at random comps and make a choice, but when you have to show them to someone else, then actually holds us to a different standard when you have to present your work. So that's kind of cool.
You can't bullshit them too much because they know the area better than you know what I mean? So you go like, yeah, look at this house. And the guy's like, what are you know, that's not even in my.
Yeah, that's what happened with my Pittsburgh deal, by the way. I presented to her, and luckily I kind of like wiggled out of it a little bit. I was like, all right, so we got this one. What do you think about those? And she's like, well, that's in the fucking hood. I was like, cool, okay. I was double checking with you. We'll throw those out. I was like, so basically we're down to like one comp I got right. She's like, well, that's where they all sold drugs and shit. And I was like, yeah, because the numbers look really cheap. It kind of looked like that might be the case. It made sense when she said it. I didn't know it's Pittsburgh. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Just taking a shot here. Yeah, man, it was what it was. Dude, man, so you have your marching orders. I think you're pretty clear. Work on that. Like, hit me back when you're ready, man. I'm excited for you to get some stuff out because I think you're on like a little bit of a, you got your deal done recently, and I think you're getting a little bit of momentum. So it's important you keep the calls going and keep practicing before you lose that fire you're starting to create, right? And because the more God forbid you come and you do a couple more deals, like you'll get on a complete roll and it'll start to like crack loose for you. You'll understand, oh, okay, this is what I do to do deals. Really simple. Now you can rehab some, you can start making some of that profit. Next deal you get under contract, like I told you before, like let's map it out together. I'll teach you how to get like way more money. Ask Ray, man, like when we're digging through like your whole, just selling his actual renovations. Like, have we produced like money doing that? Like, I mean, just like being overly detailed and pushing way farther than people think you should push. It's meant real money to him, right? Hey, I think I got you off. Let me put you on. Oh, I don't know if I can turn you on. You got to turn yourself on, right?
Ray's going to say something. He'll pop up.
He's cool. He's cool.
I had it muted because I knew Garrett, you guys were chatting. But yeah, it definitely has.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a lot of work. Gerhard, and same thing for Ray. It's like it's a lot of work, but like I mean, seriously, I mean Ray's probably picked up somewhere between 15 to 20K over like 3 or 4 deals, and I mean like totally anywhere from like it could be as low as 10, but I mean it's 10. Let's call it 10 even. It's totally worth doing for $10,000, right? I mean he literally just made a couple additional phone calls, pushed a couple times a little bit hard, calls his realtor to get on medication. It's okay. She's now on antidepressants. She's on Zoloft, but I think she's all good now. He has gotten the result because he didn't give in, and that persistence that I've been like kind of working with Ray to kind of show him like what it's about. Well, that goes across the board, right? Now he's dealing with that with the renovations and being persistent with the contractors when they're like, yeah, I won't do demo for 1,000. Him and his wife just went out and did it for 500 or whatever. I mean, nothing actually, but did it in 4.5 hours. So, like, you know, I was telling him I thought it was a $300 to $500 job, and them doing it in 4 hours suggested that would have been very fair pay, actually. And the $1,000 people that wouldn't do it for 1,000, that was a blessing in disguise, right? Because you know that person is lazy apparently. So he's digging hard and he's working hard, but his results over time will really pay off. So anytime there's like a crucial, what we call like a checkpoint that's really crucial, step in with me because it gives me an opportunity to show you like how to take it to the very, very next level. And you know, because you've got a great result, by the way. I'm just talking about like I want to open your eyes to like, okay, this is what average people are doing. Let's figure out how you take a 10K profit and turn it into 25. That's when things get exciting. When you have that power with wholesaling, by the way, you might consider not rehabbing. Like seriously, sometimes when you have private deals, it is right now with the market being what it is. You totally, if you were to completely juice every deal for every dollar, you could make a lot of money just wholesaling.
Oh, I would wholesale everything I can. I don't have a, you know, like my guys that I work with, my rehab guys, have enough work in between. So I don't feel like I got to keep them busy. And so, yeah, I mean, the easy money is what we're all about, right?
Yeah, for sure, man. I like rehab, but it's because I think rehab for me is the easy money now, right? I've gotten so good at it. It is and back when I could have wholesaled more, it was hard to get 25K profit and 20. You know, we were usually doing 5 or 10 because that's what the market was. You know, it was hard to get big assignment fees. Now you can get crazy people to do crazy stuff.
Yeah. I think as long as we can get big money because the market is wacky, then the wholesale is nice because you can still make money doing it. You know, as soon as we get to where rehabbing is more, then we'll just do that. I love
Yeah, well, let's talk about that because that might be interesting for Ray. Ray, what number would you decide if you could wholesale a deal? What would be the number that would make you decide I want to wholesale versus rehab?
I don't know. I've honestly not really put much traction to that thought. If I had to say just off the top of my head, just kind of spur of the moment, probably somewhere between 7 and 10.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's pretty. It's pretty realistic. Like a couple of guys I've bought stuff from, you know, I've kind of struck a rapport with them, and they're upfront with me. I mean, they're honest. You know, and they say we'd rather have guys that would buy stuff consistently like you, and that we know are going to close. And like you and I were talking about it, and you know,
That's your guy, by the way. That's who you want to buy wholesale deals from.
Yeah, so he could have made a few more, but they're putting a lot of stuff on the ground. He's actually texting me right now, and he said they actually got 30 calls yesterday. So he's sifting through, and they got a couple of appointments for some good stuff. So, so I probably 7 to 10, 7 to 9, something like that.
Well, it was a good question. What about you, Gerhard? What are you thinking?
Oh, I mean, like, the way I look at it is if I I'm going to buy something that I want to make like 30 grand on, right? As a hope. So if I can list it and sell it right away and make 10, 15, I would let it go. But if I'm only going to make like 5 grand, but as to 30, then definitely I'm going to rehab it, right?
Yeah, that's
so I need
point.
to make like 20 before I go, let's just wholesale it. But on the other hand, if I have a rehab going and I'm not able to push one out so you can stack them, then you might let it go for 15K just so you have some money coming in.
There you go. So, like, I like what Gerhard, you actually hit a lot of good points. And Ray, these are some good points to think about. Because, Ray, I know you've just been thinking mostly rehab right now, but there will come time in the future where you become abundant enough that you can basically, I mean, right now you could rehab everything because the rehabs you're getting are pretty easy. They're pretty awesome. I wouldn't wholesale those to save my life, because they're like, when you're doing like a 40K renovation, man, I'm like, you can't have it. I'll take that one. I can get that done in like 6 weeks or whatever. And that's like free money to me. It's just so predictable and easy. With that being said, though, I like Gerhard made some great points. And the one point would be, do you need a house, right? If you actually need a house and you've got money to buy the house, then, I personally, in order for me not to rehab it when I need to rehab, I'd want to make probably 50 to 70% of what I would make on the rehab, somewhere in that ballpark. I'd want it to be pretty high. I probably would not take 10K for it. I think when you answered 7 to 10K, Ray, you were thinking like, what's fair? Like, what have you seen done?
No, I was thinking, I think it
from
was
your,
kind of, I think it was probably jaded by two things. It was jaded by, like you and I were talking about. I'm kind of rebuilding my my contractor fold right now.
Mhm.
So once I'm set up and that's firing again, like it was for our first 50 flips, that number is probably going to go up a lot. So it was kind of jaded by that, and it was also, that was me thinking of stuff that I probably really wouldn't want to take down on my own.
Yes.
Gerhard did make a phenomenal point of, if he can make 30 on a flip, he wants to at least hit a certain minimum threshold for a wholesale. So I
Yeah.
tend to think the three of us are in line with each other, that
For sure.
flipping would probably be the first means of
Yeah.
disposing of a property. But if not, that's what I was saying. If I'm like, you know what, I don't want it. I don't want the neighborhood. It's historic. Some other
Dude,
disqualifying
if you don't want it, though, that's a little different story. If you don't want it, any number's good. Get the most
Yeah.
you can get. I sold things make 1,500, 2,000. I don't even care, because
Okay.
that's just free money. Basically, you would either pass on it or you'd make that money.
Yep.
Right? It wouldn't be something you'd buy. So I'm really talking like, if it's a house you would actually buy and you could rehab it and it was a viable rehab at a viable time, then for me
That number
personally,
it'd be a lot higher than.
yeah, it's about 50% to 70% if it's a potential rehab. I think that from a business standpoint, it makes a lot of sense to take the risk out of play, and of it not selling for what you think or going over budget or sitting. Once you get around 50 to 70% of your potential income, because I think that is almost as good as a guaranteed 65, 70% is as good as a potential 100%.
Yeah.
And also the lack of work, right? And then you can always go find another deal too.
Yeah. And I think if we were I think it would be a different, because I remember a lot of the stuff you said, down in Baltimore was, I'm known for, offering the most and all sorts of other stuff, in as much as being a direct buyer. I definitely do think that we can offer more too, because we're not trying to offer it and pad a spread to sell it to somebody like you or Gerhard. So
Well, everyone I'm selling to, though, I don't sell it to people like Gerhard and me anymore. Like all my friends, like my one friend won't answer my call. Like he does he does like 25 deals a year, and now he's pissed because he's like, you ain't sold me a deal in 2 years. And then one time I didn't call him back for a month. Now I called him twice and he won't answer my call, and I'm thinking, is he pissed at me? But I'm like, if he's being a little baby, I don't really care. I mean, I don't know why he'd be pissed at me. I've never been nothing but a great friend to him. But who knows with him? He gets a little touchy sometimes. But like, I haven't sold him any deals in like 2 years because I'm like, dude, I don't sell deals to real rehabbers anymore. Unless they're my students. If they're my students, you might get it just because you're there when I got it, and I might say, hey, just ship it to them to help you out. But once I start marketing a deal, it is not going to a real rehabber. 100% going to someone who has a number in their head that makes no sense to me. And I have the ability to find that person. Like, I bought a house that I would have paid 63. The lady had to have 75. So I was like, all right, I'll put it under contract and renegotiate her. Some lady paid 97 for it. And I'm like, yeah, and I made 22K on it. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I don't know if she knows this, but the comps are only about 180 on the block and needs 80 or 90 in work. She's a complete airhead, though. She's a real airhead, like complete goofball, to be honest.
Wow.
I can say that because she'll never be in this group. So I'm not worried about her hearing the recording, because she'll never make it to this group, because I wouldn't let her, because she's a goofball. She was just like, argued about everything. Like, she just didn't know where she was sometimes. She's like, well, I'm at the settlement, and like, they took the commission out of the money. And I'm like, they took it out of my assignment fee. She's like, yes, but they can't do that. And I'm like, what do you mean they can't do it? Well, they got to take it from my money. And I'm like, well, you don't have to take it from your money. I'm the one that's paying the commission. And like, we argued over this for 2 days straight. And I'm like, how do you not get this, that I'm paying the commission? And then she would be like, no, okay, you're right, Mike. I'm sorry. That makes sense. And then she called back 2 hours later, like, I was thinking about it and this isn't right. And I just feel like something's being done wrong. I'm like, oh my God, you're killing me. For $22K, I dealt with it. But, it was like $22K. Wow. The only person in the world who would pay $22K more.
She was arguing that you shouldn't have paid the commission, that it shouldn't.
Dude, I wish I could explain it to you because I never truly understood what she was saying. I just was like, look, it's this simple. I made $22K. Of the $22K, I paid a $2,200 commission, netted about 19 something. I agreed that the commission was going to come out of my pocket. So like that shit's done right. What are we talking about? Like you want me, then I don't know. I just let her alone. But my point I'm making is she was an airhead, right? She completely didn't know what was going on. She just wasn't functional. She had no clue what was like happening. So
if she wants to buy anything else.
I mean, she won't. She'll be out of business after this one, would be my guess. She's going to bigger pockets, talking some crazy shit would be my guess, probably. Talking about the economy or something when she's done rehabbing it 9 years from now. My point I'm making, though, is there's always someone like her. There's always someone like her or someone who doesn't care about money like we do, who's not running a big business. They don't need to make $250K a year. They're happy to put something in there. Some people are happy to buy it and then be like, this is a great neighborhood. It's going to go up in value. Like, I'll buy it at 90% of LTV. Like, that's 10% in my pocket. And if it goes up 15% next year, that's 25% I made in a year. That's the shit they're thinking because, like, they're just fucking around. They're not actually professional renovators. They're just messing around, weekend warriors. So, like, these days, the market's so hot, we can find people like that. So you can be the guy, I pay the most, I'm a direct buyer. Like, I was paying the most and being a direct buyer at 63 and ended up paying 75 and selling it for 97. So you get my point, right? I mean, I was really truly giving them at 63, I was overpaying for it. I wasn't even, that was like honestly overpaying. It's only worth 170, 180. It needs about 60, 70. Like that's not no money in that. There's
a bit tight.
No, that's not a deal, dude. That's like no deal at all. I needed like 80K, 70K, 80K in work. And I won at 63. I'd have been 145 into a 180. The only reason I was going to.
That a lot?
They're paying too much.
People like gross because we kind of have, and I don't even want to say it's a trend yet, but I've seen it happen multiple times. That same wholesaler I was just telling you about. So he's actually locked up 2 deals already of people locally in our market that bought flips, and they're so grossly underwater. But he locks it up with them, and they just need to get out. Like they're just cutting losses. Are you seeing that a lot down there?
No, you don't see that a lot anywhere. So he probably ran into a very specific situation.
Yeah,
it's hard for people
to back to back. I'm like, wow. And we've actually had a few people call us off our website and say that they've started rehabs and they're just like buried in them.
I see that a lot, yes. But do I see a deal where they're able to liquidate and take a loss? No, because usually what happens when they're calling you to sell it, they usually bought it too high. They spent.
They are. No, I'm saying they are. They're completely buried, and they're thinking that we might not know what we're looking at.
I see that happen. We get that call a lot, yes, where people are completely out of hand. However, do we ever make a deal with them? Usually not, because they always want to like break even. They a lot of times even want to make money.
Yeah.
Like they're even like, yeah, I'm put a lot of work into this. I need to at least make 15K or something. Like you don't make, and even at 0, the deal's way off, right? Because they generally, in order for 0 to work, they would have had to bought it right and not overspent on the renovation, which is pretty rare. Because if they were doing all those things right, they probably aren't calling me and you. Yeah. Probably just finishing their rehab and actually collecting their money.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even if someone bought it right, rehabbed it right, and then called you a month and a half later and said, I want to sell it, effectively, they'd probably end up losing like their settlement costs. They probably still have to bring 5 or 10K to the table to sell it.
Yeah.
They really, even then it's hard to buy off of them. And people hate losing money. People are very allergic to losing money. So I bought a couple from renovators, but it was a long haul to get them to like lose 10K of their money they put in. Usually have more to do with like the lender, like just threatening to like take their life away from them.
Yeah.
and like, you know, come after them personally, or, you know, foreclose on their house or something, or do something crazy to them.
Yeah.
Takes like major amount. But do I see people way out of line on the numbers? Like, yeah. And honestly, you know what this lady didn't know, and that me and Rashad did know? The reason we ended up like doing the 75 and then trying to sell it to someone else is I looked on the block, and this is pretty rare that you see this, but behind the particular house that we were selling, it was a really crappy alley with like junk cars in it, right? And if you go right across the street, like literally across the street, they're selling for 270 instead of like 180. But the 270s have beautiful parking. There's a park behind it. It's this really nice green area. Like, it's beautiful. I don't know what the hell is going on behind ours. You couldn't park, so you lost the parking. Remember, you know how big the parking was down there, right? It's in that area where we were.
Yeah.
And you know how the parking's like very valuable, and you couldn't park. And there was like some kind of Mexican junkyard going on in the backyard. It was very ugly and very crazy looking. So I pulled just the block on the odd side where we had the odd side. And 10 years back, there was nothing that ever sold over 170,000. There was one house at 170, one at 150, and that was the only solds on that block, on that side of the block, over 10 years.
Wow.
So on the other side of the block, there's two comps like in the last 2 years. So interesting, right? You don't see that often, but that's being aware of like your view and your surroundings. When your view changes drastically from your comp, that's why we ride the comps, because, you know, like if your backyard is up against a big petition wall for the Beltway, and then you would look at like, and then you got a comp that's across the street, it's in a nice trees and stuff, and it's all quiet. That comp could be worth 30 to 50K more. Yeah. And that's a really crazy scenario. That's definitely an over the top scenario, but the junkyard was actually a very over the top scenario too, and she didn't pay any attention to it. Best part is we listed it for like I think we had it for 75, and we listed it for like 85, just see if we can make, you know, we always start 10K more. And she's like, I'll give you 95. I don't want to negotiate. And I was like, okay, we don't have to negotiate. And then I was like, well, listen, like, you know, we have multiple offers though, which we did not. And she's like, I'm like, so are you collecting commission? I know this is your deal. And she's like, I have to collect the commission. So you know what? Let's just throw it on top. I'll do 97 to something, whatever the commission was. So I was like, okay, I think we can make that work. And then we just locked it up. Like I don't even believe I had the heart to even actually get the commission from her, but I got the commission from her too. And you know what was funny? I was negotiating the whole time thinking we were 10K over, and then because I was thinking we were at 85, and I was just thinking it was like, okay, that's a fair offer. She gave us what we wanted. And then I looked at the number and I was like, we're 20K over? He's like, yeah, man. Like, I was wondering, you were like pounding on her. I was like, holy shit, if I'd have known we were 20K over, I don't think I would have asked for the commission. I don't think I would have had the heart, but I thought we were just 10K over, and I was like thinking that would be the right thing to do. When I realized we were 20K over, I was like, holy crap, man. Like, that's nuts. Because I ain't never had nobody just come give me 10 extra K for no reason.
Yeah.
Just like, here you go. You're all good. Thanks,
Wow.
man. She was negotiating herself.
I guess it happens though. There's your proof.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Cool. Anybody got anything else they need?
No.
Hey, I'm known for paying the most. I put that on everything now.
Nice. That's cool, man.
I put it on the website, on Facebook, I put that in like the signature. I'm known for paying the most.
Well, Ray's known for paying the most in New Jersey. You're paying the most in PA, and I'm paying the most in Maryland. Right? Darshan, I don't know what he's doing. He's ripping people off, man. That guy ain't paying nothing. He's like,
I actually sent you a property, Mike,
Did you?
for you to review.
oh, cool, to my email.
Yeah.
Take a look real quick.
Put it out as a wholesale deal.
Is it for you to buy, or tell me a little bit about it? Darshan, where you sent that? Frederick Avenue?
Yes.
Small taxes. Frederick Avenue. Dude, I mean, you have comps on Frederick Avenue?
I have some. I don't necessarily have any recent comps in terms of Frederick Avenue and that part of Frederick Avenue.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is Frederick Avenue is not a good rehab spot. That's like busy. It's but what I would do what I can just tell you to do yourself so you know is Frederick Avenue, just pull like that block or two and go like 1,000, 1,500 days back and just look what the solds look like just in that block or two though. Because Frederick Avenue, it's busy and I don't know of any part of Frederick Avenue. It's like pretty hot or anything. It's like all kind of iffy. You ever notice like in Edmondson Village, like I don't know if you know Edmondson Village that well, but like in Edmondson Village, like if you're back in the neighborhood, it's really awesome. But if you're on Edmondson Avenue, it's busy and there's a lot of drug dealing, a lot of crime. Frederick Avenue is the same way. Like back in the areas are pretty good, but on Frederick, generally like the comps are mostly rentals. However, I don't know. Are you talking? Well, you know what part of? Well, do you have the address? It's 21229. Is it Frederick Avenue towards the county?
Yeah, it's Frederick Avenue towards the county. It's
Okay.
right by the Veterans Cemetery.
Big Bad Panda, come on, we want photos. Huh. I can't get the photos, unfortunately. I don't know what the heck's going on with that. All right. Now, so when you comped it, whenever you're comping like a Frederick Avenue, you want to just comp the street. Because any other comp's really not going to be relevant.
Gotcha.
So let's pull it up real quick and take a look. Let me share my screen. 1 second. Let me go and get. What's the address?
5101 Frederick Avenue.
All right, 1 second. I'll share my screen real quick. Let me get it to come up. All right, you guys can see it now. No, not that window. Is that down here? No, it's not that. Just had the MLS up. Where the heck did the MLS go? Just had it up. Yeah, I'm all confused. There it is. And close, active under, pending. I'm gonna go like 1,000 days back because I'm doing the street. Because I just want to see what's going on in that street. You're gonna get a lot less comps whenever it's a townhouse, right?
Yes.
Oh God. I gotta find out how to do the street. Switch it up on me. That's it, man. They messed me all up. Subdivision, street, county, address, maybe. Do address, Reno, street name, bam. Now I got 20. Now we're talking. Okay, so I'm going to take this and just move this to one line and we'll show you just highest to lowest sold. So let me move you guys out of the way for a second. Okay, maybe I'll move if you can't move you, I'll move me. So you've got one house at 139 and you're our 5101, right?
Yes.
So your highest sold on the 5100 block is 118 in 1,000 days, 5100 block 109. So these are the comps that matter, right? You got 5,000 right here is active for 135, but not selling. So telling the story because they're trying to get that comp. Like my guess would be, let's just take a quick look and because it's 3 or 4 blocks away. So this one is sitting. Let's see how long it's been sitting. See what it looks like too. What they did with the rehab. So, nice looking house. Rehab. I mean, nice rehab, but not really actually. It's got laminate. It ain't even that nice. So I get why they're not selling. That's not really a rehab. They're trying to get rehab price and they never really rehabbed it. It's like a rental. They're just being greedy pigs. So I get why they're not selling. That they're trying to sell a piece of shit. That's a piece of shit. That's not a great house. I mean, they're way out of line at 135. Let's take a look at this one, though. It is 0.3 miles away. It's up on this hill. Oh, okay. Hold on, though. That's a big difference, though. Because, see, that's up in 10 hills now almost. So I'm trying to 3.3. 139. Only netted even that. They only netted like 132 or 133. And let's see what the subdivisions are. Tremont, okay. Let's see where we are. Now, this is a nice rehab. They painted it. It was a rehab, and I think they moved into it and painted the walls blue. I mean, this ain't that nice either, really. To be honest with you, that one's like nothing special. That's the one we just seen. So also in, yeah, that one's hard to look at. That one's a piece of crap. So we can find anything renovated. That's a 3.3. Also, these ones that are going for a little more money are like 1,464 square feet. So I don't know what yours is, but they are bigger than lower.
Mine's like 1,264 square feet.
Okay, so this one's renovated. I mean, finally, something that's, not the greatest renovation, but it is renovated. Again, it kind of is like a slightly iffy renovation, though, for sure. Nothing impressive. New HVAC and all that, but it is renovated. So yours is smaller. Let's take a quick look. We'll just move you guys like down or something because. All right, so if we look over here, we got it goes down very quickly 3.3, and this is 4,800. I think we look at that one. Here's the 5,100. Goes down to 118. Let's see what we got going on here. Now this looks a little different. Does yours look like that, by the way? More like that than the others?
No, mine's in the group.
Does it have a thing up top like this, or is it just a little flat one like that?
It has like a pitch roof up top.
Okay, cool. So that's a little nicer looking house. I mean, this ain't even nice. So, dude, do you mind trying to send me the pics again? I tried to hit the link and it wasn't working.
But it's on the MLS.
It's on the MLS?
Yeah, it's a short sale.
Okay, cool.
That I did. Like I put it out as a wholesale deal at 76.
50.
The property right next door sold for 75 in October.
What do you have it out for? Pending 15 of 15, 15? 5015?
5101.
Yeah, there we go. I got it. Cool. Let me look at that then. Okay, and a group. That's nice.
It's not no pictures of the inside.
Okay. Nice house, though. It tells me a lot about it. Because, I mean, I know it's a decent area. That's not the worst part of Frederick. It's 4.2. It says above grade's only 1,064. But that don't make a lot of sense. It seems like it would be bigger. Currently, now it's a 3.1. What'd you put as renovation on it?
40K.
I think you might be higher than that. I mean, you got 4.2. Or no, you're a 4.2, right?
Yes.
So you won't need to put any beds. You might be able to do it for 40. Just depends on, like, you need HVAC in it. Do you need windows? I can't really tell what I'd say.
The windows are good. HVAC, heating system, all that's brand new. The roof was done 5 years ago.
You're probably looking like 40K then. Like, so all you got to do is move a wall between the kitchen, probably.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet.
And
And
it was just what happened with this property. Like I said, it was a short sale, and when Ellicott City flooded, that property flooded. So when it flooded, the owners abandoned it pretty much.
okay.
And insurance company came in, put all new HVACs and stuff in. All that stuff is brand new. Like I said, from the flood, and so it is some mold in the basement just from the property sitting, but not a real big deal.
Is there any kind of flood issue? Like you need flood insurance or anything? Because they wouldn't.
You do need flood insurance for that part of Frederick.
Huh. Wonder if that's the case anywhere else, because that could be. I wonder if that's the case for like 2 or 3 blocks up. Let's see what.
So that was like a big fear for me because I know how people are with flood insurance.
I mean, it costs like $1,000 a year or whatever.
Hey, Mike,
Yeah.
just while you're scrolling through on that, how do you, what's the water around there that makes flood insurance mandatory?
Well, if you're in a floodplain, I mean, it's the case in a lot of places. There's plenty of places in New Jersey where, like, it could just be a creek, but the creek, when things get over, the creek will come over and come into your yard. And potentially, if they consider you to be in a floodplain, then and that's not to do with like if you've never even flooded before. You might never ever flood it before, but you're in a floodplain and you got to get flood insurance in order to get a loan.
Huh.
Now, you'll know because
That's what I was wondering. I didn't see any water even in that map shot or anything. So I guess it must be like a small tributary or something.
There's something, and it must. I don't know.
So in that area, so like if you take Frederick Road all the way into Ellicott City, it's like a river that runs along the side of 144, and as it gets further into the city, it kind of goes underground.
Okay.
And they built over top of it. So a couple of months ago, Ellicott City flooded where the levees broke.
Yep.
And when they broke, it ran all the way down Frederick Road or Frederick Avenue into the city.
Yeah, I know right where that is. Hannah's cousin works down there, and her bar got flooded.
I mean, there's no water, but it's because it's too small. It's just like a big river in Ellicott City. That river must be coming like way up there. You definitely need flood insurance. You found that out?
Yeah. You definitely need flood insurance there in that area.
Does it?
I mean, the highest sold on your street's like 135, so I wouldn't use a 140 comp. Only because I didn't see anything at 140. There was a 139 that had 6K in help, so I was like 132. I think you could be like a 130, 135, but you don't know because you'd be the first person in 1,000 days to sell for that. But if you're at 135, you're rehab. That house was not rehabbed. I think you could sell it. I mean, obviously they sold it, so, and you'd be nicer. So I think you can make it work. It's a nice area.
Gotcha. Yeah, I have offers right now for 65 and 70K as a wholesale deal.
What do you got it at for 40?
I have it at right now. I have it at 55 for the approved price. And then like I said,
it doesn't really work it don't work as a rehab though. If you got it at 55, it should be 95 and a 135, 140 don't really work.
Gotcha.
Let's see. Let's take a look and see though, before I tell you that. Just gonna look here what stuff is. Keeps moving around on me. There it is. It was not there today. Every time I put something new, it just goes somewhere. The reason you're getting high offers is because they're not thinking about rehabbing it. They're thinking about making it a rental. I mean, it's probably like a really great rental area. Yeah, you're not really making any money on it at that number. So you're picking it up. I thought for some reason I see maybe 40 or something, but picking it up for 40, then I would jump all over it, obviously, or even like 45. But it's a little too tight. I mean, you're going to have a hard time getting a lender and all that. I mean, yeah, I'd probably even be okay with like 45, 46. because it's not a hard rehab. It's a good area. It's going to sell. It's not really much to be afraid of. The only thing I'd be afraid of is your numbers aren't good. 55 is too tight. 17K, you're not leaving yourself any room for anything.
Gotcha.
So I would probably jump on taking the 15, because really you're based on right now at 55, they're going to pay you as much as you would make rehabbing it. It's pretty close.
Gotcha. I just wanted to, because when I did the deal analyzing, my numbers were a little bit different. So I just wanted to get a second opinion before I went on it.
The only really area where we're probably different is the ARV, I'm sure, right? But the one thing that I've seen you do this in the past, and maybe this is something just for you to pay extra attention to, you take and you look at the actual number without the subsidy. The subsidy is like a big part of it. Like you looked at the 139 and said, I think you said 139 exactly, but then you didn't put the 6K subsidy in, because the subsidy puts you down to like a 132 net. And and I'm going higher than the 132 because I think you're a little bit nicer. Then you'll be a little bit nicer than that house. So that's why I'm putting it like 135. The reason we don't want to go crazy at 140, I'm not saying you could potentially get 140, but you definitely wouldn't want to bank on it when you got such a tight deal. You're gonna need every penny. So starting in the whole 5 or 8K could be a pretty tough one on a deal this tight.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
So, good luck on it. It sounds like this one might be a better wholesale, though. Cool. Well, I'm going to jump out. I'm going to try to get some dinner real quick before it gets too late somewhere I can eat healthy. Anybody got any other questions before we jump off? Nope. Awesome, everyone. Thanks for being cool at the time. I had a seminar I was trying to do today. Some helpful stuff. I'll see everyone. Gerhard, whenever you get all your stuff, man, let me know. Just hit me up. And if anybody needs anything, hit me up on Marco Polo or text.
All right. Thanks.
All right. See you, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
See you guys.